Hi, my name is Dr. Lisa Thompson. I'm a program manager and senior scientist with the American Institute of Biological Sciences, and I work in their scientific peer advisory and review services division. Essentially, we perform scientific peer review.
As a peer review scientist, what are the primary goals of this career?
The primary goals are to help the funding agencies and the foundations and institutions that we work with with their funding decisions. We help them select the best biomedical research that will move their fields forward with the global goal of benefiting science and society at large. To do this, we recruit panels of subject matter experts to advise the programs or evaluate proposals that have been submitted for funding.
All right. Could you elaborate a little bit on like how the process on what the process is like to determine um, what is essentially funded or passed?
Yeah, so we'll get panels of experts together and they will review the applications on their own and at home. During COVID, we convened via video conference, but in non-COVID conditions, we convened face-to-face panel meetings where they would discuss in a group the merits and some of the weaknesses of the application, and then they would decide on a score. Some of our clients require the reviewers to come to consensus with scoring, others don't. And a percentage of the proposals that are reviewed will get funded, so it will be the top funding ones. Sometimes programs have their own priorities. For example, they might want to spread across different subjects. So on occasions, a proposal that was rated higher than another one might not get funded just because they want a good portfolio of different projects for their program.
What is work like on a day-to-day basis? And generally speaking, what is the overall experience like?
On a day-to-day basis, I could be doing one of a number of things. On one day, I could be at a panel meeting like I described. On another, I could be writing a report, documenting the findings of a panel. And on another day, I could be recruiting reviewers to participate in the activity. Or on another day, I could be writing a scientific paper on our peer review process and findings.
And what aspects would you say about your job would be your favorite?
Most definitely working with brilliant minds. I get to work with some of the most intelligent people in the country and actually in the world in their subjects. So it's really humbling to be in a room with them and listen to them and learn from them. That and the variety of my work. We're always working on new cutting edge techniques, which, some I know, some I don't. So that aspect is always a favorite part of my learning. I'm always learning on a day-to-day basis.
Are there any promotions within this career? And if so, how do they work?
So it depends on the level that you enter as to how much progress you can make. If you enter on a junior level, project associate level, you can carve a much more steep curve than you could at my level, because as a program manager, senior scientist, there's kind of a plateau. There's nowhere else to go unless I wanted to move over to more administrative roles, which I don't particularly want to do. So.
What drew you to this job and how did you get into this field?
So I moved over from the UK where I had done my PhD and my postdoctoral research, and I'd worked with patients. I'd been sponsored by a drug company to do a clinical trial, and I really worked out that I liked interacting and communicating about my science the best with the patients. That was a thing that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the lab work, but I much more enjoyed the interaction. So it was that aspect of this work that drew me to it, the people aspect and the communications of science aspect.
So, what should I do to begin pursuing this career?
So if you're interested, you should definitely, in high school, specialize in biological sciences and then go on to get a bachelor's degree in a biological science subject. And that could get you in as an entry-level candidate, or if you wanted to get a more senior position, you would need to get a higher degree, a master's or a PhD. And again, that could be in you know, a variety of subjects, and it could obviously a little bit more specialized. You know, we have neuroscientists. I'm an immunologist by training. We have behavioral scientists. We have a spectrum on board.
What degrees does a person need to qualify for this kind of work? Or should I say, what programs do you recommend people to take as part of building experience?
I would definitely recommend trying to get an internship with a funding agency. You could do that over the summer or during winter. We've definitely had high school through college students join us over the summer, and they found it to be an invaluable experience, and it's helped them decide whether they want to stay in this field or concentrate more on research or more of a healthcare provision career. So that's what I would definitely recommend.
Are there currently any internships at AIBS?
Well, I'm not the person to ask. I don't think right now during COVID, because things have got a little, you know, we're not holding the panel meetings that we were, but definitely after COVID, it would be worth reaching out to us and seeing about internships.
All right. Are there any certain qualities and skills a person should have in order to do well in this career?
Yeah, you definitely need to be a people person. You need to be able to persuade people. You know, sometimes I'll be writing an invitation and somebody will say they've got a very busy schedule, and you definitely got to have the power of persuasion and also be unflappable under pressure. Things can happen at panel meetings that you don't plan for, and that you have to have contingencies and be able to spin on a dime and just adapt very seamlessly, since we have clients in the room. And so we need to be very adaptive in that way.
Could you explain a little bit on why communication is, or I guess cooperation with others is so important within this field?
You definitely need to cooperate because we're out for a common goal. And so people need to be understanding of that goal. And, you know, if they're not doing their part to reach the goal, then it hinders the whole process. So you definitely need to understand what the goal is and have a spirit of working together.
What are some difficulties one might face in this field?
Some difficulties. Sometimes we're up against really tight timelines. So, you know, it could be that you're given a very short period to turn a project around, and that can be very challenging. So sometimes you need to think outside the box and maybe cast a wider net. Think about going overseas for experts. Or another thing could be that you're up against a topic area that's so specific. Everybody knows everybody else. It's very difficult to find a reviewer who doesn't have a conflict of interest. So you definitely are up against challenges with timelines and sometimes subject matters that require you to kind of take a step back and think about an alternative approach to a solution.
What are some things one should take into consideration before deciding to enter this field? Are there things that you wish you had known beforehand?
If you can't work under tight timelines, or if you aren't very good at juggling projects, I think this probably isn't the career for you. What tends to happen is we have a rush of projects at the same time, so you've got to be very adept at being able to work on numerous things at the same time. So if that seems like it would be a challenge for somebody, I probably wouldn't recommend this career.
How much does the passion or interest in biology, would that have an effect on whether or not a person would do well in this job?
Oh, I definitely think so, because you have to believe in what you're doing. For me, it's very gratifying to see results of, I work with some advisory committees on getting a product to market. So it's very gratifying to see the product get to market. So you definitely have to have a passion and a belief in what you do.
How has this career impacted you and your life?
It's definitely impacted me in that I get to feel a part of something, a part of a bigger process. Like I mentioned, I work with some really good, brilliant minds that maybe had changed the course of a product or maybe a vaccine for the better. Some of the people I've worked with right now are working on the COVID vaccine. So it's definitely very interesting to see how technologies that I've worked with them, how they're being used for other things as well.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
Definitely the variety of the work and the people I work with. I work with a very neat team of individuals. We're very close. We've been working together for years. And then I get to work with subject matter experts on a recurrent basis for some of the programs. So it's great building up relationships with them and getting to know them on a more personal level.
Right. And finally, do you have any last piece of advice for those who are interested in becoming a peer review scientist?
I would definitely say find a niche area that you're definitely interested in, because it's a big field. And so you can still be passionate about a certain area, but just find that niche area that you can carve off as your own and kind of become a specialist in that area. That would be my advice.
All right. And that would conclude our interview. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.